Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. And this watch is a Rolex Certified Pre-Owned Oyster Perpetual Submariner 114060. That's right, it is not a no date. Traditionally, the Submariner with a date is called the Submariner date. But since 1953, a Submariner has always referred to a watch with 3 hands and no calendars. That's exactly what we have here. Now, this 6-digit reference was made from 2012 to 2020 when the current generation of the watch came into production, and it is the purist's option. The timepiece is a lovely balanced aesthetic while still maintaining all of the functionality as a dive watch for which the Submariner is justly renowned. So in 904L stainless steel, more on that in a moment. The watch is 40 millimeters in diameter. I measure it at 12.7 millimeters thick. And from lug tip to lug tip, just the case, 48 millimeters. End length to end length, the total distance across the wrist is 51 millimeters and has a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference, and you can see when I throw it on my wrist, it wears nicely. It's a fairly flat watch, absent the Cyclops eye being well under 13 millimeters thick. This could absolutely be your dress watch. It fits nicely under a cuff. It's not too broad. You can see, although it's got an impressive wrist stance, it's because this is more of a squared-off tonneau-like case profile than the previous 5-digit references, but ultimately it wears the same, and I could recommend it for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters in circumference. My wrist, again, is 16. We'll zoom out a little bit. You can see my power block over there. But this watch is nowhere near the edge of my wrist, and you can see that well on both sides, and I'm pulling the bracelet pretty tight. So it can be worn formally. It can be worn on relatively smaller wrists. The bracelet, well-known Oyster-style 3-link. Conforming end length is then a taper down toward the clasp. Center links are satin, flanking links are satin, but the outer faces are polished. We have removable links on both sides, which are fixed in place using screws. Now, I mentioned 904L steel. Rolex calls this Oyster steel these days. It is a high nickel content steel that is particularly resistant to corrosion. So if you expose it to sweat or sea salt, it does not corrode if it's not immediately rinsed. Standard 316 watchmaking steels, 316L, can corrode if it is not rinsed frequently after that kind of exposure. So this gives you a little bit more of a hardy construction. We have Glide Lock, which is an adjustability system that can be used to fine-tune fit, although ultimately its function is to give you 20 millimeters of extension over a diving suit. Now, this is 20 millimeters of extension in 10 2-millimeter increments, so you've got a lot of ability to fine-tune the fit or just pull it all the way out to use over dry or a wetsuit. We have a double locking system here. You can see how we have this spring-loaded beak and hook mechanism. This is a lift lock. There is the beak and there's the hook in there, and these two things latch together, and then the clamshell on the outside closes down. So it's actually got 2 locking factors. You can see the Rolex logo internally. You can see externally we have a full satin clasp body, and then we're going to roll back to the case where you can see what I mean about this being a little bit more squared off and tonneau-like. Still an Oyster case, but compared to the 5-digit reference, it's a little bit broader. You can see why I say it's less of a round watch and more of a tonneau, and it really does have that sort of profile. Satin and squared off lugs. You can see that the flanks are polished. We've got a screw down crown. It's a trip lock in steel. You know that because it has 3 dots. They're all symmetrical. The screw down, along with the Oyster screw and case back, 300 meters water resistance. A wonderfully refined and still well-detented 120 click unidirectional dive bezel. Let's take a quick look here at, let me one-hand this and grab my lights. Let's take a look at the Chromolite lume. Rolex has its own lume. It's called Chromolite. It's blue. And as you can see, all 3 hands are luminescent. We've got the seconds hand. It's not moving, so I haven't wound the watch. But I think it's important to have a lumed seconds hand on a diver because that shows you whether your backup dive timer is running when you are in the dark of the depths. And for some reason, not every dive watch has a lumed seconds hand, but Rolex gets that right. Now, we also have a hacking or stop seconds function, so when you wish, you can stop the seconds hand to synchronize to a reference time. Rolex sort of over-engineers everything. This knurling must be perfectly calculated to work well when your hands are wet, sweaty, or gloved. It's got nice bite to it. A little bit of satin, a little bit of polish, differential finish, very attractive. We have a cerachrom ceramic bezel insert that's highly scratch resistant, and we have a vapor deposit of platinum inside all of the characters and the indices. This will not tarnish, oxidize, or fade over time, so we have these platinum deposits in the ceramic bezel insert. Rolex's little bezel pearl here is actually sapphire cap capped. They go the distance, and again, everything has been thoroughly considered. A sapphire capped bezel pearl will be more durable. You can see the trip lock crown here. When it's withdrawn, it has a number of seals that are redundant to offer extra protection. And then we've got a dial that is of gloss black lacquer. It's deep, it's lustrous, it's gleaming. We have white gold hands and indices, the better to avoid tarnish and oxidation over time. Yes, I know 1,000 feet and 300 meters don't convert directly, but it's close enough, and everyone does that. Inside, we have Rolex caliber 3130 bidirectional automatic winding. This was back when Rolex still used a jeweled staff for the rotor, so along with the Teflon reversing wheels, this is about the quietest and smoothest winding experience you'll get. 31 joules, 4 hertz beat rate. It does feature a 48-hour power reserve, a full balance bridge, and a free sprung balance. Those two features give you a lot of shock resistance. Has an overcoil hairspring, which allows the watch to keep time consistently in any orientation with respect to gravity. And that hairspring is a blue oxidized niobium zirconium alloy, which is highly anti-magnetic. All versions of this watch were at a bare minimum COSC certified Swiss chronometers, and when Rolex takes them in for service, they are always adjusted to and beyond those standards. The later versions of this watch would be superlative chronometers from the factory, meaning no worse than -2 plus 2 seconds per 24 hours, though rest assured every 114060 ever made is capable of keeping those tolerances. If you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase and pricing details. Rolex Certified Pre-Owned watches are backed and authenticated by Rolex. Should any reconditioning be necessary, it will be to a Rolex Certified standard, and any parts invested, Rolex Factory Original. Should the initial retail box, paper, and accessory set still accompany the watch, it will be included with the sale. But no matter what, a Certified Pre-Owned box and paper set starts with an outer box, a leatherette travel pouch with suede lining, a warranty card that embodies the 2-year globally valid Rolex-backed warranty. Note, this is not a retail warranty, but backed by Rolex and actionable at any of its authorized points of sales and service. A leatherette wallet includes the warranty terms and conditions manual. A holographic hang tag marks this as a certified pre-owned Rolex watch, and a manual details Rolex's values as a company. The certified pre-owned program: care, feeding, service, and use of your Rolex, locations of points of sales and service, and details of Rolex.com. Rolex Certified Pre-Owned watches are backed only by Rolex.